Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy JJ, and today is episode 7 of JJ's New England Sports Corner. This should have been this should have been episode 8, but when I went to record 7, it ended up coming out without any sound. So here I am back with episode 7. I'm pretty much going to be covering the same topics as last week, since you didn't really get to hear my thoughts, which is pretty much I will be covering my regular season predictions for the Boston Red Sox. Um, I will be covering the rest of the major Patriots free agent signings. And finally, we'll end it off with some Bruins talk because, in all honesty, I've kind of been not necessarily avoiding them, but they've just sort of slipped through the cracks recently as far as my analysis of them. And I never really mean to do that. I've just more so been trying to make sure I stick to one main topic. But yeah, I will be covering the Bruins today. So before I begin, make sure you click subscribe and turn on post notifications so that every time you go live, you'll be notified, as well as every short I post, basically just clips of the podcast. You'll be notified about those as well. And if you want to read some articles of mine, go ahead and click down in the description below to get to my blog, where you'll be notified about game stories and all that other stuff. And if you like what you read, feel free to put your email in so you can sign up for email notifications so that you will be notified every time I post an article. And without further ado, let's just get started. So firstly here, we're going to talk about the Red Sox. Now, firstly, I want to point out some rankings that I saw, I believe just the other day. I'm a big fan of Giraffe Neck Mark. For those that don't know, he's one of the bigger baseball content creators on the platform, and he just went over Baseball Prospectus's PECOTA rankings, PECOTA, PECOTA rankings or standings, I believe just the other day. And they kind of ticked me off a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not by any means an expert on how Baseball Prospectus calculates these rankings. I'm not an expert in anything. I really hope that's not the vibe I'm giving off whenever I do these podcasts. But anyways, these rankings kind of confused me a bit. So real quick, they had Boston finishing third in the AL East, which on its own, I don't see too much of a problem with. I do think they're going to be finishing second. I mean, big spoiler alert there. But they have them finishing third. But they have Boston finishing with 83.7 wins in their calculations and 78.3 losses. That is kind of what really ticks me off the most. It feels like Baseball Prospectus was really giving Boston the shaft a little bit in that way. And in all fairness, they're not the only team to really get the short end of the stick here in these rankings. In particular, the Detroit Tigers and the Milwaukee Brewers absolutely got it, possibly worse than Boston did. Detroit is supposed to finish right around the same, 84 and 78 exactly, whereas Milwaukee is supposedly finishing 82 and 79, or 82 and 80, if we're rounding up the loss total. That really confuses me because outside of losing Freddie Peralta and Caleb Durbin, they still have everybody else on that staff. And in the lineup. They still have, William Contreras and Bryce Terang and Jackson Chourio, Sal Frelick, Christian Yelich. And then their staff is always super lethal. I just don't really get how Milwaukee is. Oh, did not mean to turn the echo on there. But I just don't get how Milwaukee's only an 82-win team. And more importantly, since I am a New England sports channel, I don't see how you can look at Boston and think they're only going to win around 83 games. I have them sitting around where they finished last year, if not possibly better. I think the Red Sox managed to somehow improve on their rotation by picking up Ranger Suarez, which I think was just an absolutely fantastic deal. And I'm happy that the Red Sox finally spent some money, especially when it was pretty kind of particularly late in the free agency period, and a lot of guys ended up getting signed. But yeah, I think Ranger Suarez is a perfect number two, or I guess number three, because allegedly the plan is supposed to be Sonny Gray being the number two starter, at least at the start of the year. I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about that. I'm not entirely I don't know how to put this. I'm not entirely sure Sonny Gray's a number two pitcher at this rate in his career. Granted, I think his struggles in St. Louis last year are not necessarily an indictment on him. It was definitely more so batted ball luck sort of getting in his way and just kind of really effing him over at certain times. So I do think Gray will improve on his numbers, but I don't know if he should be the number two starter. It's not like Ranger Suarez is necessarily a young pitcher or an inexperienced one. He's had over 3 years of experience as a starter, and he's been getting better every year. And it's crazy because his velocity has gone down every year. At least his average fastball velocity. It's been going like a tick down every year, I believe, since 2023. But every year that's been accompanied with lower ERAs. So that's pretty insane to me. But yeah, I mean, I do still think the Sonny Gray move was really good. I do think it was a really good move considering how durable he is. He should be able to eat a lot of innings. He should be able to give some reliable innings. I mean, Brian Bayo, he doesn't really have much pressure considering he's pretty much at the same level, or he's pretty much like more or less kind of the same role that he was at last year. He's not being asked to go above and beyond and be a number two. He's still a middle of the rotation guy. And right. And I mean, Johan Oviedo as a five star as the number five guy in your rotation is pretty damn good. I wouldn't be surprised if Oviedo ends up getting kicked out for one of either Peyton Tolley or Connolly Early. I think it'll be Connolly Early. I think he's just a more complete pitcher. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tolley proved me wrong either. But I do think Peyton Tolley's stuff kind of translates, at least at the moment, from what I've seen of him. I still think his stuff translates to more trending towards being a reliever, at least for this year, because he's got a killer fastball, but the rest of his stuff is still kind of catching up. That's not to say I don't think he has the potential to become that kind of pitcher, but it's still, like I said, he's still a bit of a work in progress right now. And yeah, I just think Connolly Early's a bit more complete. So I wouldn't be surprised if Early ends up picking up more innings as a starter. The bullpen, I'm still kind of more or less. I think it's pretty much the same. More or less, I think the bullpen hasn't really changed much. Essentially, there's really been essentially no change. They've pretty much just swapped out Justin Wilson for Danny Coulomb, who I think is going to be an absolute gem for the bullpen. I mean, you look at his numbers in Minnesota, he was just as good as Chapman. Granted, Coulomb wasn't ever the guy to close games in Minnesota, but dude still had, I think, I believe, I want to say a 1.15 ERA in Minnesota last year. It just so happened that things went to hell in a handbasket with Texas. But Danny Coulomb has been an elite bullpen arm over the past 4 years. And I just don't think that's going to change. So I absolutely love that Danny Coulomb acquisition. I love the Danny Coulomb acquisition. And honestly, I got no reason to believe that at the very least, the top four arms for this Red Sox bullpen aren't going to be super dominant. You know, Chapman, I got no reason to believe Aroldis Chapman's going to lose form. Same thing with Garrett Whitlock. I love Justin Slayton. I mean, and also if Greg Weiser can just continue his form throughout the entire year, he can be absolutely lethal. Because early last year, first half of the year, Greg Weiser was absolutely dominant. But he just kind of melted. He just kind of melted down a bit down the stretch of the season last year. Now it wasn't every appearance he was having really bad ones, but when his bad appearances came, they were really bad. Just look at Peyton Toley's first career start against Pittsburgh. Toley left the game. I believe only surrendering one run and coming out through like midway through the sixth inning. Greg Weiser came in and immediately allowed two doubles, immediately allowed two extra base hits to give away the lead. So I'm just hoping that Greg Weiser can just really continue his form. If he can continue his WBC form throughout the entirety of the 2026 season, Greg Weiser is going to be a problem. So I do still think the Red Sox bullpen is going to be very reliant on their top four arms. So I do think you're going to need someone like Weiser or possibly Zach Kelly or just someone else in that bullpen to really step up and possibly be a guy who can eat key innings. Now the lineup, I'm a bit conflicted. Now there's no doubt that I think the lineup can be really good. It can be. Hopefully Roman Anthony, he plays a full year instead of playing a mere 71 games. Roman Anthony as the table setter. And you got Story, Jarren Duran, and Wilson Contreras. I think that's pretty solid to me. That seems pretty solid to me. Then Wilyer Abreu. Hopefully Ceddanne Rafaela manages to actually play a full good year behind the dish, as opposed to being possibly the worst hitter in baseball throughout the second half of the year. Let's hope that doesn't happen like it did last year. But I mean, I've got no reason to believe Roman Anthony's gonna be falling off anytime soon, considering he just had over 1,000. He just had a 1,000 OPS in the WBC for Team USA. And Wilson Contreras, I think Wilson Contreras is going to have a great year in Boston. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people that call Wilson Contreras a bounce back guy, where I don't think it's really warranted, because Contreras was absolutely phenomenal in St. Louis. Like he really hasn't shown any signs of decline. So I've got no reason to believe that in a much more hitter-friendly ballpark, Contreras is going to stumble. I think Contreras is going to have a pretty phenomenal year. And I think Contreras could be, I don't know if like the missing link is like the way I should be putting this, but I don't know. Maybe he could be that. I have a lot of faith in Wilson Contreras. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. So my overall, oh god, someone's revving their. I think someone revved their car or their bike outside. Whatever. So my official prediction is I think Boston is going to end up with 90 wins. I think they're going to end up with 90 on the dot. I do think they're going to finish second in the AL East. I think Toronto is going to be that damn good again. I do think they're going to finish second because I think the Red Sox improved, whereas the Yankees more so stayed the same. They didn't really make any big moves to improve the team. They're more so just running it back with the same crew. And although it ended up being pretty good because the Yankees ended up defeating the Red Sox in the wild card. I don't know. I don't know if this year's Red Sox team is going to let that happen. I think they're going to be better than what we saw last year, especially because hopefully Roman Anthony is going to end up hopefully playing a full season. And hopefully we're going to see a lot less Masataka Yoshida. However, that's implying that Tristan Cassis actually stays healthy for the first time in 3 years, which I'm not necessarily betting the house on. Don't get me wrong, I really want it to happen because outside of the last month of the Red Sox season, outside of the month of September last year, Masataka Yoshida has not been impressive for Boston. And he just has such a big contract. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants him. I would love to see Masataka Yoshida's contract off the books. But I doubt it's going to happen. But yeah, to recap, my official prediction is 90 wins for the Red Sox and second in the division, first AL wildcard. Or possibly second, depending on how the AL Central shakes out. Depending on how good the Royals do, who I think is going to end up finishing in second. I do think the Tigers are going to win the AL Central. Depending on how good the Royals do, I could see Boston getting either the first or second wild card. And now let's move on to the rest of the Patriots free agent signings, because the last time I covered free agency, the Pats only made 2 moves. They had only signed Reggie Gilliam and Draymond Jones. And literally like that night after the podcast was done, they signed Elijah Vera Tucker, which I think is a very good move. I'm glad they signed a left guard as opposed to trying to get someone to play center. I'm going to be pretty quick with this because it's already very out of date. The Romeo Doubs move, at first I wasn't really fond of because it was a lot less to do with the move and a lot more so that I was just under the impression that if Dobbs ended up going to New England, then that was the only move they were going to make. I was pretty much under the impression that Dobbs would be the only move, as opposed to now where it's like, Dobbs is going to be, obviously Dobbs will be a big part. He's obviously a big signing, but also all the rumors about AJ Brown and a possible trade to New England are still heating up. And in all fairness, I made that in episode 6 of the podcast. I said all that stuff, not knowing all the stuff about AJ Brown and his contract, specifically all the dead money that the Eagles would be eating if they were to trade him before the summer. So let me Let me look this up. Let me just look this up and make sure I'm not butchering this. So, yeah, this is an article on NBC Sports Boston by Nick Goss. Nick Goss. So he said in this article, posted on June 2nd, I think. Or no, June 2nd. I'm an idiot. So Nick Goss said in an article for NBC Sports Boston that was published on March 2nd that if the Eagles were to trade AJ Brown before June 1st, AJ Brown's dead cap hit would be $43.5 million. Whereas if they were to trade him in the summer, the dead cap hit is only around $16.35 million and would actually clear up $7 million in cap space for the Eagles. So it's very likely that the high price tag for AJ Brown right now could be lowered in the summer after the cap hit becomes a lot less. That if they were to trade him now, they want to be compensated properly, i.e., a first round pick. So that really brightens my spirits into thinking that an AJ Brown deal possibly could be on the table. Now, I'm a little bit mixed on having to wait until the summer. Don't get me wrong, but if that's what the Patriots got to do, then so be it. I mean, I would love to keep my first round pick. I would love for the Pats to keep their first round pick this year, so that they can address another need, particularly edge rusher, because I don't think they've addressed that enough. But anyways, yeah, I mean, if the Pats can get AJ Brown without having to surrender their first round pick this year, holy crap, that'd be a miracle. That would absolutely be killer for New England, and that would absolutely mean there's no excuses for Drake May to not perform. I mean, you can't really give any excuses out anymore, because he's hopefully not going to have to deal with Will Campbell's injury struggles throughout the playoffs, and then any type of possible lack of weapons thing becomes completely non-existent. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I think if there is a way to get AJ Brown on the squad, I think I would be a lot more. I don't know. I think right now I'm at least a little bit more. I guess I don't know what the correct word here is. I guess I'd be a little bit more willing right now than I was, like, say, at the start of free agency. I'm a little bit more willing now to possibly give up the first round pick this year in order to get AJ Brown on the squad. However, if the Eagles' asking price does actually change, absolutely wait until the summer. But yeah, hold on. I kind of went on a bit of a rant there. Hold on, I still. Yes. So, and finally, I think what has pretty much become my favorite signing is the Pats signing Kevin Byard to a 1-year deal worth $9 million. I mean, not only is Byard an experienced guy, he's also just effing good. He's just that damn good. He just made first team All Pro last year, and he only got a 1-year deal. I think it's absolutely insane that 1 year, $9 million is all that Kevin Byard was commanding on the market. And don't get me wrong, I'm still a little bummed that Jalen Hawkins is out, but I mean, replacing Jalen Hawkins with Kevin Byard is absolutely insane work. That was awesome. That's an awesome deal. And I can't wait to see how well he helps out Craig Woodson. Just being able to learn from him. I think Kevin Byard could be absolutely lethal for New England this year. So yeah, that was pretty much the big. That was pretty much the last of the big free agency signings. Now, lastly, here I'm going to talk about some Bruins. I'm going to talk about the Bruins here. Let, so right away, I do think I was wrong about one of my about about some of the things I said in my trade deadline article, which you can find on my sports blog down in the description below. But anyways, I do think I've been proven wrong about at the very least one of the trades that the Bruins made at the deadline. They only made two trades. They swapped a couple minor leaguers, and then they acquired Lucas Reichel from the Vancouver Canucks for a 6th-round pick. Admittedly, I was not familiar with Lucas Reichel. And he didn't really wow me. He's a guy who spent most of his time in the AHL this year between Vancouver and Chicago. So I wasn't exactly hoping for much. But I mean, Lucas Reichel has absolutely blown the expectations I had for him out of the water. He has become an absolutely vital part of the Bruins. And it sucks because he might end up getting kicked off. He might end up getting kicked off the lineup if, God willing, the Bruins don't screw things up with James Higgins. But Lucas Reichel in his 2 games with the Bruins has been really good. In the first game against Winnipeg, he was really. Hold on, let me gather my thoughts. But in Reichel's first game against Winnipeg, he absolutely gelled amazingly with the second power play unit. He absolutely kept the flow of the offense going and created very good opportunities to score. And his speed is just such a welcome change of pace from a Bruins team that is often pretty slow and physical. Granted, not as slow as last year. Last year's Bruins team was almost unwatchable for how slow they were. They are a bit better in that department now, but I mean, still kind of. But I mean, Lucas Reichel has been such a welcomed change of pace, and I mean, just look at him drawing the penalty shot against Detroit. I mean, it was his speed that helped create that opportunity. Granted, he didn't end up converting on the penalty shot, but that's neither here nor there. And I absolutely love Lucas Reichel, and I think even if Higgins ends up, uh, even if Higgins does end up signing with the Bruins, and and somebody does get kicked off, I almost think Reichel's done enough to earn at least some semblance of playing time. I think there could be some games where you can warrant having Reichel out there. I'm just looking up stuff on the James Hagan stuff. Hmm. Elliot Friedman reveals crazy new twist on the Boston Bruins signing James Higgins. After BC hockey was bouncing the hockey semifinals in overtime. James Higgins. Please, there will be a James Higgins answer on Monday. Grim outlook as to why he might not end up in Boston. I think Monday we'll get a clear indication of where this is going. I don't see why they wouldn't, because Higgins is just absolute. I don't see why the Bruins shouldn't sign Higgins on and give him the game experience. But anyways, but yeah, I was proven absolutely wrong about the Lucas Reichel acquisition. He's performed honestly so well, and I absolutely do think he deserves the playing time. He has absolutely earned it, and he has excelled. Now the Bruins, as of the time I'm recording this, I believe are yes, they are firmly in the first wild card spot. They just defeated Detroit in their last game, which coincidentally before that game they had the same record, 37 wins, 23 losses, and 8 ties, if I'm not mistaken. And they are also tied with Montreal, sitting at 86. Let me just look it up. I don't want to talk out of ignorance here. Yeah, there's both Boston and Montreal are sitting at 86 points right now. It's crazy that the Buffalo Sabres are currently leading the Atlantic Division. But yeah, Canadians are sitting at 38 wins, 21 losses, 10 overtime losses. And then the Bruins are 39, 23, and 8. Both 86 points right now. Canadians are currently in the final Atlantic spot, but the Bruins do hold the first wild card spot. So I don't know. I don't know if I should have. I'm not entirely sure what kind of outlook I should have on this season. Because truth be told, whether the Bruins, I think I'm not entirely sure in my mind that the Bruins really have what it takes to win a playoff series, let alone make a serious cup push. I'm just not sure about that. I don't think the Bruins can make it a whole series unless they're playing just their absolute best hockey. And with how streaky they are and have been as a team, I don't really have a reason to believe that they're going to be playing their best hockey all throughout a series or all throughout a cup run. But yeah, honestly, Marco Sturm has done just an amazing job with this team. And I'm either way, whether they make the playoffs or just melt down, I'm still going to be proud of this team regardless. You know, they had what 73 points, if I'm not mistaken, last season, and they've already surpassed that with what 12 games left on the season. But yeah, I'm so proud of Marco Sturm and just the entire rest of the Bruins team. You know, a lot of people, including myself, were writing them out. I'm on record, or not on record, but you can go check my blog. You can check my first Bruins post. I believe my first Bruins post on my blog is my regular season predictions for them. And I said there that they were going to be a bottom 5 team in the East. They've absolutely surpassed my expectations. So yeah, I'm so proud of the of what they've done, and just how much they've been able to get out of undervalued commodities like Marat Husnudinov and Fraser Minton. And also, I don't think it's a coincidence that the minute that Pastrnak is playing with Husnudinov and Minton, all of a sudden they're performing better. Moving Lindholm and Geeky down and Husnudinov and Minton up has absolutely done wonders for the Bruins. And I'm honestly not surprised. Lindholm specifically has kind of just been almost a ghost out there. It sucks because he's making a lot of money, and he's not He's not putting up number one center quality right now on the ice. So yeah, I'm kind of ashamed, or not ashamed, but I'm kind of sad about that. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I stand. I do think the Bruins will end up making the playoffs though. I think they got a good chance of making it. They are playing some good hockey. I'm proud of their win against Detroit. And one last thing, man, Jeremy Swayman. I don't know what to say at this point. Jeremy Swayman is just awesome. His last game against Detroit was absolutely phenomenal. 41 saves, especially when the defense was really kind of letting him out to dry there in the third period. He faced 22 shots and saved 21 of them. I mean, it makes sense that Swayman is popping up as a pot in like the conversation for the Vezina Trophy, even though rightly so, it really is just a two-man race between Andre Vasilevsky and Ilya Sorokin. But yeah, I'm so proud of Swayman. He's been absolutely phenomenal, and I absolutely do think he deserves to be mentioned in some top five conversations. All right, without further ado, that is it for me, folks. Like I said in the beginning, don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified whenever I go live or post a short. And if you feel like reading some stuff about the Bruins and all, if you feel like reading some stuff about your favorite New England sports teams, go ahead and click the link in the description to go to my blog. And if you like what you're reading, make sure you sign up for email notifications so you get notified every time a post goes up. I make sure to post all my game stories very fast. And if you want to go and test that theory, make sure you put in your email so that you can see for yourself how fast I do it. All right. Without further ado, it's been your boy JJ, and I'm gone.